everyone. Today we're taking a break from old school Magic the Gathering and looking at old school, or Alpha 40. Let's travel back in time to August of 1993. A friend invites you over. They have a new card game just came out. You open some of these packs and you're going to jump into a game and see what was this new magical card game. If you want to skip right to the match, there's a timestamp in the description below. I want to very briefly cover the deck construction and rules of the format, look at the two decks today, and then we could play. So let's take a look at the rules. So Alpha 40 does have its own and unique rule set because it's using what was in the Alpha rulebook in August of 1993. So that means, for instance, there is no stack. The stack hadn't been developed yet. If both of players cast instants, those instants resolve at the same time, and we'll see an example of this in the match. There was no deck restrictions either, so you could run any number. The 4 of rule wasn't invented yet, so you could run 20 Giant Growths, you could run 20 Black Lotuses in the original rule book. Now today we're going to be playing under the Northern Paladins Alpha 40 rules, which tries to simulate the idea that you didn't have access to all those cards in 1993. So for instance, the game uses a rarity mechanic, so Giant Growths are commons, a Black Lotus is in the rare slot, there's less rares printed, so if you went to a card event or you went to your friend's house, people didn't have all the boxes, they didn't have all the rare cards because they were harder to pull and you couldn't buy them online. So this rule set tries to simulate that. So you see here, you can only pick one card from the fast mana group. Now, one of the decks in the video violates this, but the decks other than that are built to this rule book. So we take a look at this, the restricted list. You can see you can only have one Demonic Tutor, one Disrupting Spectre, one Fork in your deck. You only have one of each of the dual lands. Again, no one had play sets of duals back when Alpha came out, and so the dual lands are restricted. Other cards that are restricted as well are things like Berserks, Hypnotic Specters, some of your uncommons in the set, your Swords to Plowshares. Again, just to pull back on, you're not running a deck that half the cards are Swords to Plowshare. So with this in mind, and again, you could see the full PDF in the description, let's see what decks we'll be playing with today. Let's take a look at the mono green deck. So this deck, straightforward as green is, wants to play out creatures, grizzly bears, juggernauts, and really one of my favorite creatures in Alpha set, the War Mammoth, a 3/3 with trample. And you're going to want to Giant Growth these creatures to give them +3/+3. And what's great, again, like War Mammoth already has trample, so you throw maybe 2 or 3 Giant Growths on there, attack with the War Mammoth to win. You also have some other threats here like Copper Tablet, which can, if you get ahead early on life with a big attack, and the Copper Tablet pings each player during their upkeep for 1 damage. You could do a big Hurricane for 4 or 5, again, if you're ahead on life, to reduce your opponent down. So it is an aggro, aggressive deck. You can see in Alpha, 40 rules, you've got more than 4 land or L's, more than 4 Giant Growth. So you're going to want to see an explosive kind of creature attack from the green deck. I should also note before we move to the next deck that this deck has a Emerald and a Soul Ring, which violate the rule set that we just talked about, but that was a small oversight. But other than that, this conforms to the Northern Paladin rules. So here's the white-black deck, which I think is a really strong deck. It has, running the 3 Disenchants and 3 Swords for kind of removal spells. It's got Black Knight, Hypnotic Spectre, Secret Vampires, all really strong cards that you see in the old school format, the 93-94 old school format, but in Alpha they're even better, and they're really, really strong creatures. Juggernauts are kind of staples of the Alpha 40 format. Icy Manipulator, again, to kind of disrupt your opponent. But really the star of the show here is you're going to play out your Pestilence. And remember, in Alpha 40, Pestilence works a little different. You don't have to just tap 1 swamp to do 1 damage. You could tap, say, 4 swamps at once and do 4 damage to all creatures and all players. So it's a very powerful win condition for the deck. So if this deck is able to establish itself, get a Tome out, get an Icy out, use some Disenchants, and then play out Pestilence, I think it's going to be able to win. But again, I love the simplicity and how straightforward the decks are in this format. But the question is, can the black-white hold off the berserks and the giant growths that are becoming its way? All right, and we will jump into the video today. We're doing some Alpha 40. So welcome, Brandon, to August of 1993.
Everyone's favorite, Alpha 40.
Everyone, dude, booming. Like Commander, no one plays Commander anymore. They're playing Alpha 40.
Everyone's playing Alpha 40. Everyone's abandoning Commander, whatever it's called, for Alpha 40.
Yeah, EDH, whatever. So there, again, one of the things Alpha 40, the player who goes first draws a card, so you have a huge advantage if you go first. An advantage, not a huge advantage, but...
I would say that's a pretty big advantage, being able to draw a card on turn one. Now, this is a little disjointed. We've got a playmat versus someone using a mouse pad, and they've got an island.
Look at that swamp. The swamp's actually floating. It's like not leveled.
It's a levitating swamp.
I don't know, dude. In 1993, maybe people played with mouse pads.
maybe they did. Just an IBM mouse pad.
So we have a grizzly bear coming out, and again, when you're playing Alpha 40 with only the original Alpha cards, I mean, 2/2 grizzly bear is a solid, and then a black knight 2/2 first strike, that's even better.
Right. Yeah. So it's,
Alpha 40 is also a very creature heavy format,
as it should be, right? So you only have 40 cards in the deck. Mm-hmm. Important to note that you can have any number of copies of each card.
Yeah, so there's two things there. Yeah, you can have of like commons, I think, as many as you want. So the green deck here is gonna be running like 7 or 8 giant growths. But the official, if you Google Alpha 40 rules, like the Paladin PDF comes up, and so for things like you can't have all the moxes. It's like a self-restricted on some of the powerful cards.
Okay, so you can't just have like 10 emeralds.
10 emerald, no.
That would be
commons,
too broken.
Right, that would be right.
So
but having 10 giant growths is,
that's fine. So you just berserked, and then I think giant growth, a bear.
A bear. So that became a 5/5, a 10/5, and he did not declare a blocker, so he took
10 damage. It may be safe to say he probably didn't know what he was going up against.
I think before this, the player, was told that this is a giant growth deck,
okay.
I think. Or maybe he didn't know, yeah.
I mean, if you didn't know, now you know.
Yeah, now you
So you're going to flip on...
So Hypnotic Spectre in any format is always targeted, like, right away, right? Like, even in old school.
Yeah. Even in a broken format like this, that Spectre is still very dangerous.
I mean, he's probably even more dangerous in this format.
Maybe. Because, it's an uncommon, right? So can you have as many as you want, or no?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Well, we've got Juggernaut.
Which, again, in Alpha 40, I mean, so it's a 5/4. That's strong.
5/3.
Again, I mean, I'm sorry, 5/3, yeah.
The only reason I know that is because I know it's a very boltable card, right? It's very susceptible to bolts. And then also another Juggernaut.
I know that.
Wow.
So the Jugs on just so now Juggernaut must attack. So we know the player on the right here, that's going to attack, and we'll see if the player on the left there blocks.
Oh, I thought those were all swamps. Okay, so there's 2 swamps and 2 plains.
2 plains. So yeah, the deck on the right is it's basically it runs white for swords and disenchants, but then it has all black and creatures in the Juggernaut. So I again, it's not a format that is like my top format that I play. I think once in a while it's fun and interesting to dip into it and just see like how the very original cards worked.
Yeah, it's a very different kind of game.
Very
even
different
from old school. So he did disenchant your Juggernaut. He got in with his own as well as the Black Knight, and then plays another Black Knight. It's looking pretty good. And then another Juggernaut comes out. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, the Soul Ring is underneath that Mox is doing some work.
That's
only one forest on the left.
Only one forest, yeah. But then again, you have the Land and War Elves there.
Oh, you're right, and the Mox.
You got the Emerald. Then there's that Soul Ring under that Emerald. So there's a lot of mana that can be utilized. And what was that? Was that a
There's
Another disenchant on the Juggernaut. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's 2 Juggernauts
Yeah.
vanquished into the void.
And another really big card in this format, which you'll only see in this format, is Jade Statue. And so the disenchants really just clean them out.
Yeah, Jade Statue's an interesting one.
Yeah. And then we get a chump block on the Juggernaut.
And then a Grizzly Bear.
Just a very, there's something that makes me laugh when I see this card. It's just a picture of a bear. It's like, yes.
Yeah.
Like back then, they were just like,
just kind of a picture of just
bear.
like a nonchalant kind of bear looking for like salmon. So it's like, you know, the bear is being thrown against like 2 knights in this giant like tank thing. Kind of feel
Still
bad
unclear
for the
what
bear.
that picture is. I know. Uh-oh.
Something big. Oh, yeah. I mean, in old school, yeah, Sengir Vampire is pretty big, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
5 mana.
4/4 flyer. And then, yeah, you're also seeing just hard casting, just tapping 5 lands to play your creature. And that's gonna be it.
You can. That's a game win right there with the black-white deck. Pretty typical in typical fashion. Just kind of overwhelmed with creatures and.
Yeah, just every turn, Juggernaut, Knight, Seeker Vampire, just playing them out.
Yeah.
And that's how the games go sometimes.
That's how it wraps. So let's see. So there was
the draw.
There's a draw, then play. It's very odd seeing that.
Yeah.
Far.
I remember we played a game once. And there's your favorite
copper
card.
Tablet. The copper.
I think for the
tablet.
green player, because if the green player could get in with like, a Berserk, a Juggernaut, and then you're way ahead on life, and the copper tablet does them, like that's potentially a strategy.
Yeah, no, it is. It's no, definitely.
I know you and me played a game once of with the rats. It was that the rat card?
It was just like this like gangly like rat deck.
Yeah,
and it was just nothing but rats, like plague rats.
15 rats. Yeah, plague rats, that was it.
And I'm sitting there and I'm like, there was like at least like, I don't know, like 80 rats in that deck.
Yeah.
And they were just coming out every turn. And I kept waiting for like something to happen. I'm like, what does this deck do? And then like maybe like 6 turns in, I was like, okay, no, this is what it does. It just keeps playing out rats. I'm like, that's what this deck does. It just plays rats. I was like, okay, so I just have to kill the rats as fast as possible.
And that was it.
Yeah, I don't remember how it went though. I don't remember.
You wound up winning. I remember that. I think you were using more of a control-y deck, and because the rats boost each other, so if you take them out, they kind of
right
flounder.
Yeah, if there's, because I think they gain counters with if there are more rats on the board.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you can
3 to cast,
if you can control the rat infestation, you've got a decent chance. Okay, so we got
and here the player on the left really developing Copper Tablet, Orb, Juggernaut.
Second
Ring.
game in a row, you see the Orb and the Soul Ring. But I guess when there's only 40 cards in the library, you got better odds of pulling those cards, right?
Yes. It's definitely a different vibe.
Not very popular as a format, is it?
Well, yeah, I mean, the costs of the cards are a big gatekeeper in the year 2022, which we're recording this.
Yeah, that's probably a lot to do with it, no.
Okay, so he's got Hippie, 2 vampires, and a swords. Yeah, I mean, even just getting the basic planes for the deck is going to cost you hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Probably about $1,000 bucks just for the lands.
If you don't have them already.
Yeah. I think the cost is ridiculous to try and play this kind of format.
Yeah. So we saw. Okay, so he does have swords in hand, but he's gonna hold that and play out the Hypnotic Spectre. Maybe start getting some discard going.
That hippie.
Now, interesting because he had 2 vampires, which I guess would be better to block the Juggernaut. Maybe next turn he will do that. Or maybe he's going to swords the Juggernaut.
Maybe swords the Juggernaut. Maybe that's why he'd rather keep 2 open, right?
Yeah.
Spend 3 to cast the hippie, and then you have the other 2 to cast a disenchant on that or swords on the disenchant. So stupid.
I mean, it's when you play out Juggernaut, you just make it gigantic.
Yeah. Just kind of laid them out. Blop, blop, blop. Oh, okay. So what is that? What is that? A 20? Like, what is that?
24 or something.
A 24-20. And then he throws the swords right on top of it.
So this is interesting for people who do play Alpha 40 don't. So there is no stack.
Yeah, explain that. So there's typically in all of Magic there's a stack, right? So instants and spells go on a stack and then they resolve in a specific order. But this format, there's no stack.
So here, normally, right, the Swords of Plowshares on top, it would resolve first, killing the Juggernaut, and the other 3 things would fizzle.
Which I think makes sense.
But the rulebook in Alpha 40 says that all instants resolve at the same time.
Okay.
So,
so what the hell is that?
So in this case, the giant growths and the berserks all happen, and the swords happen, and I wind up gaining
lots of
the players
life.
are going to gain 24 life.
That's lots of life.
Yeah. So that's a huge difference from old school or whatever format you're playing. That move right there is would only happen in Alpha 40.
Wow, barely got that.
Barely get it. Just chuck it over to them.
Throwing it over the plains.
So now with that amount of life gain, it's even with the copper tablet out, now you're so far ahead. It's hard to see how the player comes back, the black-white player, but we'll see. I mean, we know he has the 2 vampires.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get both of them out and they stay out, that's 8 damage a turn. That's, I mean,
you could start chipping away.
Some big chips. Chunks. Some might say there's a chunk. Hey, Juggernaut. Okay.
He goes with the Juggernaut instead, which does this 5 instead of 4. But yeah, there's all weird rules too, like interrupts are faster than instances. So if you do an interrupt, that would...
An interrupt is faster than an instant.
I also just want to call out here this beautiful War Mammoth. 3/3 with trample. Which works great because you've just giant growth it a bunch now. It just already has trample.
Yeah, the trample's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, so certain things like again, I'm blanking on examples of interrupts, but like Black Lotus, you could sacrifice it for 3 mana and it says use this as an interrupt. So that would happen faster than. So if someone cast swords, you can interrupt and get the mana from the Lotus before the swords resolves.
What about like a disenchant? A disenchant is like an instant, right? An
instant. Yeah, so that's just instant speed then. So so if you disenchant a Black Lotus, because the Lotus sacking is an interrupt, they could respond by interrupting.
Right.
And it would happen before an instant. So there's something faster than instants in this format.
And that is the interruption.
The interruption.
What about interceptions? Does that exist?
And I think that's a football term.
Is that a football thing? Is that Tom Brady?
American football. That's American football.
American football. What does European football have?
Handballs. Headers. Handball. They have handballs.
I don't know. I used to play handball.
Yeah. It hurts your hand.
It hurts. Sometimes it does.
So the downside to Juggernaut here, because it has to attack, you then cannot block with it.
No.
And
but he's doing, I guess, a vampire. That's 5, right? Yeah.
Yes, but the Soul Ring was also...
Oh, no. Oh, a Howl from Beyond. So he's going to pump that Juggernaut.
6. So it did, I guess, 11 damage, potentially. Yeah, so that's a way to get back in the game.
That's pretty neat.
Trying to think what else. I mean, black player, I believe, has a Pestilence, so maybe if he could take out some of these creatures to stall the game. That could be a potential. Oh, and there's a giant growth on
a giant mammoth.
A giant, yeah. See, it's like a doubly sized elephant.
Just a very large elephant. And then a regrowth on Chaos Orb.
Yeah, I would think. Or do you just grab like a berserk and just berserk your elephant?
No, a Chaos Orb. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could, right?
And then here's going to be a flip. Just immediately.
Just no mercy.
Yeah. So I actually don't know how it works in Alpha 40, but here he wants to respond. I assume this is someone could correct us in the comments, but I know in Old School, if you activate the orb, the other person gains priority. So he actually responds by swordsing the Juggernaut to gain the life.
Okay. So now what are you targeting? Just a land or
the soul ring?
The soul ring. Yeah. Took a soul.
Yeah. The whole ring.
The entire soul ring. Well, I think it's not looking too good.
Yeah. No, I mean he's still at 10 life, but it's just when you're at 29.
29. I was gonna say I'm too lazy to like count how many life points are there. It's more than 20.
We need the cell phone that just has the digital number.
Yeah.
So a Seeker here can hold down the board,
Somewhat.
Stop the man. Well, granted, unless the other player has a giant growth of berserk.
That's the thing. Now, if you did have that pestilence, I think the pestilence with that vampire is actually a pretty good combo.
Right, because he get pestilence for 3.
Pestilence for 3, because the stipulation on the pestilence is you can kill creatures, but if there are no longer any creatures on the board, the pestilence then goes away. So you have to be able to do enough damage to kill your opponent's creatures without killing your own, so that you can keep that pestilence on the board.
Correct. And in Alpha 40, you could actually do not just one at a time, but you could just pump the pestilence as much as you want with black mana.
Right.
That's also a big difference.
That is a big difference.
Tap 3 and pestilence for 3, which makes it even better.
Yeah, because normally I think it would be, so you would have to tap one swamp at a time. It activates. Yes. It does its damage. Then you have to activate it again.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if that was to happen and the copper tablet is disenchanted, I think the black white player is like right back in the game.
But he does, and those giant growths or wild growths.
Yeah.
Giant.
No, giant. Wild growth is the one that lets your lands tap for an extra green.
Also, very good card.
Very good.
Just throwing out another swamp.
There's.
Picking up the whole stack.
Is that no? That's a reorganizing of the lands,
tapping.
which are placed right on the edge of the.
Right on the edge. The precipice.
Okay, so there was 4 was tapped to play the tome, and then 4 to cast in, and 4 to tap it. That's what happened there.
Okay. So, you drew something, and we don't know what.
We don't know what. Now again, in a 40 card deck, I mean, it's even better, the tome.
Yeah, that is very true, actually.
Right. And so here, I mean, the vampire is now a 5/5. We haven't seen this happen in a while, where it killed
actually kills something and then actually gets a +1/+1 counter.
So here, I mean, he needs the disenchant with 1 life with the copper tablet, and if he can do that, he's back. I mean, he's in the game.
Barely, right?
You're right. I mean, or the game is over because they'll just need to pass turn on the copper tablet. The player could also tome here if he did not top deck, though, which I guess he would have played it if he top decked it.
Got a lot of lands.
A lot of lands. And here, I believe, will be an activation of the book.
Here's the book. Swamp. That's that.
Oh, he did have the pestilence in hand. But who knows? He might have just. Who knows when he got it? And so yeah, I mean there it's just I mean the wonky Alpha 40 stack no stack thing gave the green player so much life that they effectively were able to win on that.
Just on that alone, yeah.
Yeah. So we go to game 3.
Game 3, solid turn 1, forest into an elf.
Yeah, the other player just putting down 1 swamp and passing. Ooh. That's bad. That's bad. I mean, this is for the Richard Garfield Championship here. This is everything's on the line.
This is for the Garfield Trophy.
Oh, and this is just a real the Garfield Trophy. This is just a very strong start for the green.
Yeah, this already looks pretty bad. And that Chaos Orb has seen action every single game.
Every game. Now again, I mean, Llanowar or Elves just get destroyed by Pestilence, right? Like if the black player gets Pestilence out, like they're just toast.
But we haven't really seen it.
Oh boy, I was going to say Juggernaut. No, it's the beautiful
elephant
mammoth.
Just an elephant.
For some reason, elephants and mammoths are different in Magic. Ooh,
bit of a bounce, but it works.
Going for the mana denial.
Yeah.
Trying to keep that Pestilence off the board, right?
Yeah, I don't know. This is looking rough.
Yeah.
He's going to tap down 2, and he's going to put out another Black Knight. Hey, Black Knight is a great card.
Yeah, I mean, protection. It also has protection for white. It only costs 2 to cast, and it's first strike 2/2.
First strike 2/2 is a pretty in old school. It's like pretty damn good.
Yeah. Even without the protection for white just brings it over.
Right, the protection over white, is kind of just like added a topping.
So here, okay, so I mean this just signals giant growths are coming in, right?
Yeah, multiple giant growths maybe. And he's gonna double block the giant mammoth. Is that what he's doing?
Yeah. Yes.
Ugh. Interesting.
Is that the correct move there? Because you get giant growth, you lose both of them.
Exactly.
What do you think of that?
I don't know. He lost them both, so it wasn't good.
Yeah. I guess you could have blocked each of the elves and you would have lost 1 and kept 1 because it would have first. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess so. Yeah.
So now it's a race. The Copper Tablet's out, the War Mammoth's out, and here's a third
knight.
Right, so he could have been back. He could have potentially had 2 knights now, but
yeah, he's
1 card in hand.
It's been a struggle, I think, all 3 games really. This giant growth green deck thing is just it's very consistent.
Yeah,
in what
it just has a couple creatures and it's got the growths, and the berserks. And here, no white, no plains, so no access to the swords or the disenchants.
I would have to imagine he must be sitting on some cards that he'd like to play. That must be can't.
Extra frustrating.
Yeah.
Let's see. What is Pestilence 4 to cast?
I think it actually might be 4 to cast. I think it's like two swamps and then maybe 2 colorless. I don't know.
Well, this does kill the mammoth. Assuming the mammoth doesn't get giant growth.
That's the thing, yeah. It would kill the vanilla mammoth, but I'd have to imagine that there's at least 1, if not 2, giant growths in that hand.
Listen, you could say what we want about Alpha 40. The fact that the vanilla mammoth matters is awesome. Like, look at this thing. It just
just nudges it up. I think that was he was like, I don't know, will this die?
Yeah, and it does. So there was no giant growth, so they do both die. Now, was that a smart attack? Maybe not. Oh,
and there's some access to white, so all right. Oh, disenchanting the Copper Tablet. Okay.
Which was needed in game 2 big time.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Oh, and a Chaos Orb.
And
Immediately to
he's
get
going
rid
to
of that Soul
activate
Ring.
it.
Okay. Hey.
Okay. Now, yeah.
Okay. You know, that
Okay,
Soul Ring does a lot of work. The problem is
Yeah.
you still have, I mean, on this side of the table, you got so much mana ramp
Yeah.
going. Even, especially with those 2 Llanowars Wars.
Yeah. So I don't know if I would have personally flipped on the Soul Ring there. Like maybe wait till Juggernaut comes out or some big creature, right? Because you know this deck has to win with Giant Growths.
Yeah, I think just kind of keep it there as a threat, a deterrence. Yeah. Oh, and a Pestilence comes out. Oh, and it is okay.
And
so
it's Pestilence for 1.
Pretty cool. This is I big fan of Pestilence. I think it's a really cool.
Yeah.
Card.
I know you've used it in Old School.
Yeah, it's works really great with just like a mono black deck. Super neat, very fun to use.
Yeah, and even better in Alpha 40. And so the green player just no Mammoth drops. Its 2 elves are just gone. So I don't know. Maybe this is back in the game here for Black White.
It might be. Now if he can get a vampire out.
Yeah, and the second he gets ahead on life, remember you could just Pestilence to the win.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Oh, and there comes a vampire. Look at that.
There it is.
So okay, this now is kind of an interesting game here. Let's see. He's got some kind of mechanic going here. So you're gonna.
Yeah.
He's just gonna take the 2.
Uh-oh. Yeah. Now you're seeing what the Black White wants to do, right?
Yeah. So we got to imagine that there's some kind of shenanigans going on with this Grizzly attack.
Yeah.
And I think
so. This is a very unfortunate that he declared no blockers and loses.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh. Yeah. Just when he was again, like when you have the Pestilence out, you're gonna want to just sacrifice your vampire, and then it doesn't.
Oh, what an unfortunate and abrupt ending. It was like the season finale of The Sopranos. It was just it's over. oh, that's a shame.
I know that's a shame, but again, it's just a creature format, like right. It's just all the strategy and math on the attacks and the blockers is the whole thing.
Yeah.
So not going to have tons of Alpha 40 videos, but hopefully this was enjoyable to see one game here.
Yeah, and educational.